who made it out of the Bataclan concert hall told Radio France that the shooters entered firing assault rifles and shouting Allahu Akbar, Arabic for God is great.
En plein concert, il y a des mecs qui sont arrivés, ils ont commencé à tirer au niveau de l'entrée et en fait ils ont tiré en plein dans la foule en criant Allahu Akbar avec des fusils à pompe, je crois, parce que les gens entendaient charger. Et du coup après tout le monde le concert s'est arrêté, tout le monde s'est couché à terre et continue à tirer sur les gens.
Well, let's discuss this further with Stephen Moore and Daveed Gartenstein-Ross. Steve is a former FBI supervisory special agent.
And Daveed is a counter-terrorism expert and a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. But I'd like to start with you, Stephen, because we are getting this new information that 8 of the gunmen are now dead. 7 of them were suicide bombers who we were told by the prosecutor blew themselves up. That does not seem to me like that is everybody directly involved in these attacks. If you look at the number of locations, the amount of damage, the amount of people killed in all of this, would you say that there are more gunmen out there?
There are potentially more gunmen, but you know that 8 people didn't do all this damage themselves. They had to get to the locations. They had to case the locations. There may be dozens of people.
That's the support network.
That are a support network. There could be other shooters out there. The first thing that they'll want to do is sift out from the victims terrorists who try to blend back into the group. And you may find here, I mean, we know already that they shouted, "This is for Syria." Well, they didn't shout it in Arabic because people wouldn't have understood it. Likely you have some homegrown terrorists here, and so they'll speak French, they'll look French, they'll sound French, and they can easily blend into the crowd. You drop your weapon and you rub blood on yourself and say, "Oh my God, oh my God."
Daveed, turning to you to pick up on the point of the profile of these attackers, another notable point that at least at the Bataclan theater attack, they were not wearing masks, we're being told. I mean, what do you make of that, not wearing masks, shouting Allahu Akbar, but also we're told seemingly young and also just very calm in the way they carried all of this out?
Yeah, a lot of interesting things to pull on here. The fact that at least some of them were wearing masks. What we have there is an eyewitness account of the attackers that he saw, suggests that those attackers were on a suicide mission. Obviously, if you intend to keep on fighting, it makes a lot more sense to go ahead and put a mask on so you can slip into the crowd, as Stephen had just said. They're young, which tends to fit at least part of the profile of what we expect from attackers. They tend to be, for attacks like this, they tend to be males within a certain kind of age range. The calmness is very interesting and something that is a little bit difficult to gauge from eyewitness attacks. They at least appeared calm to the eyewitnesses. But one of the big things that people are speculating on right now, which is significant, is guys received training. To what extent were they instead self-trained or self-starters? And this, to some extent, speaks to that point. Though, to me, the professionalism of the attacks and the fact that they were able to avoid surveillance is much more significant in that regard.
Steve, I see you nodding your head in agreement with Daveed, because clearly, I put this to our guest last hour, you don't learn this level of coordination or assault by logging onto the internet.
No, these small unit tactics were very well practiced, very well executed. And what we have found is that people, say from France, as an example, might go over and fight for a while with ISIS on the battlefield, come back with combat skills, and then use them back in Paris. Hypothetically, I'm not saying that this is going to be the case, but that's what we're finding, and that's why you see the authorities being so severely careful with people who have gone over to terrorist training camps or terrorist groups and then come back.
Daveed, can I say very quickly, there's been no claim of responsibility in this, but everyone's looking at ISIS, so it's either ISIS or Al-Qaeda. Pick your poison. Which one?
If it were my gut, I would go with ISIS, but we really don't know at this point in time. We really don't know. I mean, there's no claim of responsibility. That's fairly typical because we're not even 24 hours from the attack. The reason why I would lean ISIS is because to carry out a major attack like this means that Al-Qaeda would be shifting the world's attention in terms of military resources brought to bear in counterterrorism operations away from ISIS and towards Al-Qaeda. And I think they kind of like waiting out this assault on ISIS, which is losing more and more ground in Syria and Iraq. They just lost Sinjar. So to me, it doesn't make as much sense given al-Qaeda's strategy. But that being said, if you look at a lot of recent attacks, ranging from Charlie Hebdo to the attack in Bordeaux, which was an al-Qaeda and not an ISIS attack, to the Norway attack, the Breivik attack in Oslo, the initial assumptions were wrong in all of those. So I'm really hesitant to weigh in too strongly.
Fair point.
Stephen, weigh in. What are your thoughts?
I believe it's ISIS. I worked al-Qaeda for several years with the Bureau, and to me, al-Qaeda is looking for bigger hits than this, and they always seem reticent to do this. This isn't small to us, but to them,
this would seem
yes, this would seem small to them, and it might not give them enough credibility with their donors.
David, let me ask you about that in terms of the choice of targets here. First of all, your read on the sites of these attacks.
In terms of the sites of the attack, look, there's a lot of speculation out there as to what the sites mean. I think that the more important thing than the specific sites is the technique that was being used. It was an urban warfare style of attack. One that in terms of sites that were chosen, went through areas which had minimum security. It was designed to prolong the attack for an extended period. They took hostages and actually, rather than keeping them for a while, started executing them, which is interesting and atypical. It doesn't match, for example, with what happened at the Westgate Mall in Kenya. But they're attacks that are very much not just on tourists, but on France itself, and designed to maximize casualties, maximize fear, maximize attention.
Daveed, thank you for that. Daveed Gartenstein-Ross giving us some perspective there from Washington. Daveed is a counterterrorism expert, and also Steve Moore, who is a FBI supervisory special agent. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And we're hoping you're going to stick around and talk to us a little bit